How many of you have heard someone say something like this? Faith is all you need. Anything else is works righteousness. Trying to earn your salvation. You should just believe. That's all you need to do. How many of you heard that? Okay. Well, it's wrong. At least it's mostly wrong. Now, in fairness, the idea of faith alone, sola fide, comes from the Protestant Reformation as a slogan. Of course, it's a biblical idea. But no reformer thought that it didn't matter how you lived once you professed Christ. None of them did. In fact, they even have a theological term for that. It's called antinomianism. Anti, against, nomos, law. If legalism is the idea that the way to satisfy God is to keep the law and be a good little boy or girl with all the boxes checked, if that's the one mistake at this end, right, because nobody can do that, the opposite mistake is anti-legalism, antinomianism. The idea that once you've signed on the dotted line with Jesus, it doesn't matter what you do, because it's all faith. That is a mistake. That's the opposite mistake. What we need is what God supplies us, which is justification and sanctification, to use the theological terminology. Justification, to be accounted innocent because of Christ's work for us. As Luther talks about the great exchange, where I exchange my sinfulness for his holiness, I exchange my guilt for his innocence. Yes, that's justification. That's the start. That brings you from a negative position to a zero. But we're not supposed to be zeros. We're supposed to grow up. And sanctification is the process of becoming holy, wholly dedicated to God, fully what we can be. And any definition of the gospel has to include both of those. Justification, being rendered free from our sin, from our negative situation, and then sanctification, to grow up into holiness, into being fully dedicated to God. And the Protestant Christian mind has wrestled with trying to keep this as an appropriate balance. And it even shows up in a funny place. We just finished Christmas time, and one of the favorite songs we teach little kids was actually one of Martin Luther's hymns, at least it's attributed to him, Away in a Manger, right? Away in a manger, no crib for a bed, the little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head. And in the last verse, it says something interesting, because there's actually two versions of the last verse. You probably know it. Be near me, Lord Jesus. I ask thee to stay close by me forever, and love me, I pray. Bless all the dear children in thy tender care, and here's the divide. One version says, and take us to heaven to live with thee there. See how passive that is? Just pick us up and take us to heaven. But the other version, probably the more authentic one, is, and fit us for heaven to live with thee there. You see, he's not doing us a favor if we are still sinful, if we still have our sinful habits, if we still have our confusion and derangement of mind, to suddenly take us up into a place we are not fit for. And so part of the Christian life is to have faith in God, yes, and then to follow through on that, to receive from God the life that he wants to give us. Now that's probably 6 or 7 minutes of heavy-duty theology, and I'm a bit worn out, so I need to tell you a story instead. Many of you know that I'm a Canadian. I was introduced as such, and that's true. I was born in Canada. I spent a little time in my boyhood in Britain. That's why I first learned to talk, and I have a charming accent from Britain, but I don't use that anymore because people look at me oddly when I do. I grew up in northern Ontario, and then spent most of my life in the American Midwest and in western parts of Canada. But in 1978, long before most of you were, my parents emigrated from northern Ontario to Abilene, Texas. And I came down with them that summer, and I had a culture shock of a fairly high degree. Because Abilene's real Texas, right? Some of you noticed the boots I wore last night? Did any of you notice the boots I wore? Say, is this kind of Canadian kind of posing, you know, these boots? Baby, those boots are older than you. Those boots are 40-year-old Tony Lamas that I got in Abilene, Texas at Lusky's Western Wear in 1978. Oh, I'm more Texan than you know, darling. How Texan am I? I will tell you. I have hauled grain out to ranches west of Abilene, and I have driven trucks for Ms. Baird's bread. Is that pretty Texan? And not only have I driven bread around Abilene, I have driven bread out in godforsaken Friday Night Lights country. I didn't get all the way down to the Permian, but I got to Stamford and Snyder and Sweetwater, Texas. I did. And you could appreciate, as I was going to these little towns, that if you talk with an accent like you're from the north, there's only so many maple leaves you can pin to your shirt. I tell you what, they are not happy to see somebody who talks like me. So by the time I started working for them, I started talking like this instead. And I don't mind talking West Texan. I tell you what, it's great. Appreciate you. So I ended up at DFW a couple of days ago in the capable hands of some of your leaders. And they said, time to go over to Van, Texas. And I said, you know what? It's been a long time since I've been in Texas, and I've certainly driven I-20 plenty of times. Let me do the driving. And you guys have worked hard. Let me do the driving. It'd be kind of nice to stretch out a bit after the plane flight. I said, sure, you go ahead. So we start to visit because we enjoy visiting. And we pass Weatherford, and we're enjoying the visit a little bit more. And then we pass Abilene. And I noticed that my friends are getting a little bit uncomfortable. And they said, I'm pretty sure this isn't the way to Van from Dallas. Oh, no, I've driven this road lots of times. No, I'm pretty sure you're going in exactly the wrong direction. No, never you mind. So we get down the road a little bit further, and the signs start to come up for the Permian Basin. And by this point, my friends are really being quite rude. Like they're insisting now that I'm going the wrong way. And I'm a little bit hurt. But they get out their phones and they get the GPS on the car, and they're pretty convincing. You know, as Midland comes into view. And it takes a big man to admit he's wrong, and I am that big man. And I say to them, you know what? You're right. I am going the wrong way. And they say, well, that's all we need to hear. I said, that's great. And I keep driving. Now it's Odessa. And they said, no. I mean, it's good that you acknowledge you're going the wrong direction. We're not getting any closer to Van. It's the wrong way. I said, what do you want from me? And they said, you can't just acknowledge you're going the wrong direction. You're taking us in the wrong way. And you know, I'm cut to the heart. I know I present like a tough guy, but inside I am a delicate little flower. And I am acknowledge I'm going the wrong direction. I now feel badly about it. I really regret we're going in the wrong direction. And here comes El Paso. And the charms of Ciudad Juarez are just ahead. And now they're upset. And I said, look, I acknowledged I was going in the wrong direction. I feel badly about it. And they said, that is not good enough. Well, what do you want from me? Wait, what do they want, right? They want a lot from me. Because the point's to get to Van, Texas. So I can't just acknowledge that I'm doing the wrong thing. I can't just feel badly about it. I have to get off this road. I have to take the exit. I have to then turn around and make a fresh start. I have to get on a different road, and then I have to get on that road all the way until I get to Van, Texas. And if I don't do that, I'm not getting the job done. Right? Simply acknowledging that I'm wrong and I'm going in the wrong direction doesn't cut it, right? Simply feeling badly about it doesn't cut it. I have to do what's necessary to get this car to its destination. And that's what we need to do with our lives. Right? And until we are at the Van, Texas, we have not arrived at where we need to be. Let me have my scripture reader come on up, and she's going to read to us some verses that you probably haven't heard preached on very often, and I had hoped to avoid. But here we are.
James chapter 2, verses 14 to 26. What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, "Go in peace, keep warm and well fed," but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. But someone will say, "You have faith, I have deeds." Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds. You believe that there is one God. Good. Even the demons believe that and shudder. You foolish person, do you want evidence that faith without deeds is useless? Was not our father Abraham considered righteous for what he did when he offered his son Isaac on the altar? You see that his faith and his actions were working together, and his faith was made complete by what he did. And the scripture was fulfilled that says, Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness, and he was called God's friend. You see that a person is considered righteous by what they do and not by faith alone. In the same way, was not even Rahab the prostitute considered righteous for what she did when she gave lodging to the spies and sent them off in a different direction? As a body without spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead.
Thank you. So what's the apostle saying to us here? He's saying, firstly, if you won't even look after your sibling, if you won't have to look after your brother and sister, if you see a brother and sister in need and you say, God bless you, and you do nothing about it, your faith is clearly dead. There's nothing there of any value. That's not going to warm anybody. It's not going to fill anybody, right? You wish them a little God bless you is actually kind of vulgar. It's actually kind of grotesque. No, if you don't look after your sibling, if you don't act on the basis of your faith, you've misunderstood the whole nature of Christianity. But someone will say, you have faith, but I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds. James is saying, good luck with that, right? I really believe. Oh yeah? Show me. Well, can't, but by golly, I do. There's nothing to show. I'll show you my faith by my deeds. You notice what he's saying here. He's making it clear. I'm showing you my faith by my deeds. My deeds aren't a substitute for my faith. My deeds are simply the extension, the manifestation of my faith. You believe that there is one God. You have correct theology, James says. Well, good for you. Even demons believe that. Getting certain facts about God clear is not necessarily to your credit. When Jesus encountered demons, they seemed to be the only one around him who actually knew who he was. Right? Who are you, the Holy One of Israel? Everybody else isn't quite clear who Jesus is. The demons know who he is, but that's not to their credit. Right? That's not something they can say is a good thing. Having correct theology isn't a good thing on its own. But interestingly, even the demons believe that, James said, and they what? They shudder, which at least is consistent with what they profess. At least the demons have the integrity to shudder because they know who Jesus is and they respond accordingly. And James is saying you should be knowing who Jesus is and responding accordingly. You foolish person. That's one of the harshest things you can say to somebody in Bible talk. It's not too strong in everyday talk. Oh, you foolish person. It sounds kind of quaint, right? Right? The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. Right? The fool is the worst kind of person. When Jesus says, don't insult each other, don't label and dismiss each other, the worst thing you can finally say after you've called somebody a moron and you've called somebody an idiot is to call them a fool. Because a fool is morally culpable for his stupidity. A fool is at fault. Somebody who's simply unintelligent can't help it. Somebody who's a fool can help it and doesn't want to. And James is calling these people out and saying, you are a foolish person. You know better. You should know better. You should be acting better. Do you want evidence that faith without deeds is useless? Do I really have to go there? This is what James is saying. See, a lot of the Bible sounds a lot more like me than you think. All the exasperation. Yeah, I resonate with that. You foolish person, you want evidence that faith without deeds is useless? Well, let's go to Exhibit A, Father Abraham, right? That's where we always go to learn what faith is. Was not our father Abraham considered righteous for what he did when he offered his son Isaac on the altar? And then James makes this qualification. You see that his faith and his actions, or his works, were working together. His faith was made complete by what he did. That's the relationship. Right there. Faith is made complete by what he did. Otherwise, it's incomplete. It's not wrong. It's not nothing. But it's made manifest. It flowers. It bears fruit, so to speak. Otherwise, it's just incipient. Otherwise, it's just proleptic. Those words really help you, right? Otherwise, it's just a beginning without an ending. But you see that his faith and his actions were working together. His faith was made complete by what he did. And the scripture was fulfilled that says, Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness. Interesting. And what happens in that little phrase is that suddenly faith and works get elided into belief. Abraham believed God. There's just one verb there. It's not Abraham had faith in God and he acted on it. You notice that? This now has become one thing. He believed God. Because in the Bible, it's one thing. It's not Abraham sits there quietly and goes, by golly, I believe God. I sure do. God's asked you to do something painful. Yes, and I really don't want to do that. But I really do believe. Nope, there's no such thing in the Bible as that. I have faith in God. I just don't really want to do anything because I wouldn't want anybody to get the wrong idea. They are getting the wrong idea. Faith and works is what it means to believe God, to have faith. He was called God's friend. You see, James says that a person is considered righteous by what they do and not by faith alone. He's considered righteous, that is to say, he's considered on the right path. He's walking the way he should. Again, don't misunderstand me. I'm not suggesting anything that's not traditional Christianity. We are, as you've heard me say, we are saved on the basis of what Jesus Christ has done for us, right? As God's free gift. And then once you receive the gift, you're supposed to use it properly. You're supposed to take it. And what is it? The gift is not an insurance policy. The gift is new life. So live. It's simply an implication of that. In the same way, and here's an even more powerful little story, was not even Rahab the prostitute considered righteous for what she did? This is when Israel is moving through into the promised land, and a couple of spies are sent into this city, and in this small city, very low profile, right? They're spies. So they're not supposed to be identifying themselves to the city fathers or the city elders. So where do they go? They go to the home, the one place in town where people's anonymity is guaranteed. The whorehouse. You see that? It's a strategic move. They go to be with Rahab because Rahab can be counted on to keep her mouth shut. Otherwise, she goes out of business. So this is a tactical move. They go to Rahab, and now she's got a choice because she finds out who they are. She figures out who they are. Actually, she's a smart woman. A lot of people who earn their living this way have to be smart people because life's been tough on them. And Rahab is making her living the best she can. And she figures out who they are, and she decides that she knows that their God is bigger than their God, the one in the city, and she's going to side with them. And so she hides these guys, and she lies about the fact that they're there, and she says, just promise me when you come back with the army of God that you'll spare me and my family. Right? Talk about putting your faith on the line, right? Talk about acting on the basis of whom you trust. She trusts Yahweh, whom she can hardly know anything about. All she knows is that Yahweh is Israel's victorious God. I mean, how much theology would she have, right? Next to none. But she knows enough to put her chips on the right side of the table. She knows enough to put her life and her family's life on the line, because you can imagine what would have happened to them if other people in town had found out what she did. That's what this means, this really, really grim story. A lot of the Bible, right, we shouldn't teach it in Sunday school, but this is for grown-ups. In the same way, was not even Rahab the prostitute considered righteous for what she did when she gave lodging to the spies and sent them off in a different direction? She believed in Yahweh, and so she put her life on the line. And finally, James says, as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead, which strikes me as reversing the metaphor. I wouldn't have put it that way. I would have put the spirit without the body and faith and works, wouldn't you? See what I'm saying? I would have lined up the parallel that way. But I think what James is saying, by saying, as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead, is that a body without a spirit in it is just a kind of hulk, a kind of shell. It's just a kind of pretend thing that has no motion and doesn't do anybody any good. And that's what faith is like without works. It's inert. It's literally inert. It doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't do anything. No one's benefiting by it. And James says there's nothing serious to it. In the history of modern Christianity, it's been sad that there has been a kind of division in the churches and in their teaching that really shouldn't have taken place. One group of churches and traditions has emphasized what we could call the binary nature of Christian faith. Born again or not, in, out, right? On God's side or not. And this is the tradition that's usually associated with believers' baptism. So Baptist churches, other churches of believers' baptism tend to be this kind of emphasize what is in fact a truly biblical principle. I mean, Jesus says you must be born again. I mean, this is true. You either in or out. You're either part of the kingdom of darkness, you're part of the kingdom of light. I mean, that's true. And we even used to teach ourselves little songs and our kids to help us understand it. And I would like to perform this for you now. One door and only one, yet its sides are two. Inside and outside, on which side are you? One door and only one, and yet its sides are two. I'm on the inside, on which side are you? Songs like that did not make us any more popular than our evangelism strategies. That's what we taught kids, right? I'm on the inside, which side are you, right? But there's something to that. I mean, it's an important biblical principle. You either are on the Lord's side or you're not. That's true. The problem, however, with starting and stopping there is that you emphasize babies getting born again, and your entire church becomes a neonatal ward full of squalling babies with no one to look after them, and they're not growing up because nobody thought ahead to what's next. We just want to get people born again. The other side of the Christian tradition is the side more typically associated with Paedo-Baptist or infant Baptist traditions, and they tend to emphasize the biblical material, equally biblical, of seed growing into full plant or infant growing into full adult. And where those churches, Presbyterian churches, Methodist churches, Catholic churches, Orthodox churches, and where they can sometimes fall down is by not emphasizing the fact that you have to get born again before you can grow up. But these are both parts of the biblical picture, right? They should never have been separated. And frankly, the best of these churches and the best of these churches don't separate them. It's just that in some of the worst churches, they are separated and not very helpfully. We have to get born again, yes, and we have to grow up. So the only way we can talk about, and the only way preachers can say things like faith alone, just believe, don't think that your works have anything to do with it, is to misunderstand the very nature of what it is that God offers us in the gospel. Right? If in fact it's just a kind of fire insurance, then sure, I can receive that, thanks a lot, great. But it's nothing like that. It's really not like that. It's like being born again, and you better grow up. It's like being a seed planted in the ground, and now you better sprout. Otherwise, it's useless. It's not what it's supposed to be. Or to pick the other paradigm, you're adopted as a child into the royal family. Well, that's great. Look at this room. Got this fabulous room, this fabulous bed, my own big screen TV. I've got wall-to-wall butlers. This is fantastic. But you can't just sit in your room playing video games. You're a prince or a princess. You've got royal duties to perform. You've got to act like one. Oh, I didn't know that was part of the deal. Well, it is. Now that you're a member of the royal family, you've got to deal with paparazzi, and you've got to deal with diplomacy. You've got all this stuff that comes with the package. Let's pick a different example. Probably the main imagery of the people of God relating to God in the Bible is that of marriage, right? God and Israel, Jesus and the church. Now, many years ago, when I was chasing the woman who would become my wife, she was pretty special. She was spiritual, she was intelligent, she was kind, and later on I found out she was also really cute. Bonus. Yeah, that's exactly how I went about it. Okay, cute first, then, yeah, okay. So I'm chasing this woman, and finally I'm ready to pop the question. And I go down on one knee, and I say, darling, I have $50,000 here in a briefcase. Would you marry me? And she is shocked and, a little offended, right? Like, she said, that's you don't need to pay me to marry you. I love you. I'll just marry you. Oh, excellent. It took a lot of hauling bread around West Texas to earn $50,000, let me tell you. Well, 45 was stolen from my dad, but still, 50 grand. I thought, and now she's willing to marry me for free. This is fantastic. Who knew? Who knew this was what marriage was like? This is great. And so the day comes, the happy day comes, and we are married, and we come outside, and it's time to pose for the pictures, and she can't find me. I'm not to be found. And the wedding party starts looking around. They start sending relatives around, like, where's John? Where's John? Where's John? And then finally, at the other end of the parking lot, this gigantic, gross Hummer limo comes roaring in. And the back doors fling open, and there's a couple of party girls back there. And I say, darling, this has been great. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. I'm off to Vegas to celebrate. And I take off across the parking lot, and the girls are squealing and popping the champagne, and the music's booming out of the car, and I hop in. I'll see you in a couple of weeks, darling. I hope you have a great honeymoon. And off we go. Now, it's not really funny. It's grotesque, but I can see some of you going, that didn't happen, right? Tell me it didn't happen. It didn't happen. It's just a joke. Jeez, people, come on. Brandon, what did you tell them about me that they would think? No, of course that grotesque thing didn't happen, right? And before I get to the car, somebody said, just a second, you can't do that. I said, well, why not? Well, you just got married. I know, it's so great. And I'm looking forward to coming home to her. She's going to be great. But, I just want, just for a couple of weeks, I want to still have No. You misunderstand. You don't get what marriage is. Now, just a second here. I offered 50 grand. She turned it down, and she said, you can just marry me for free. So what's all this strings attached stuff you're bringing in now? Where's all this? I married her freely. She accepted me freely. I'm going to Vegas freely. Shouldn't everybody be cool with that? No, you fundamentally misunderstand what it means to be married. Of course, when you marry for free, but it costs you your life. What? You marry for free, but it costs you your life. You are marrying your life into somebody else's. You can't just go away like that ever again on your own, because you're married. You are wedded to someone else. Oh, okay. Now we'll leave that horrible story now. We won't talk about it ever again. Right? You're misunderstanding the nature of the case. So I don't want you to feel anxious that I'm kind of trying to put something over on you. I'm trying to suggest that we should never have overreacted to legalism, where there's lots of it, right? There's lots of it in the church today. Lots of it, not only in our Roman Catholic churches, which is what the Protestants are upset about, but lots of it in our Protestant churches too, right? Because, frankly, legalism suits certain personalities, right? Legalism is a great way to see the Christian faith if you're a little Mr. Perfect, if you're kind of a successful kind of OCD kind of detail person, and you're constantly striving to impress everybody with your greatness, then it's a great way to construe the Christian life, because you can actually tick off most of the boxes and satisfy yourself at the end of the day that you're pretty good, right? But that's neurotic, and you need help. Okay? You need therapy for that. Right? What you don't need is theology that's encouraging you to think that way. That's not the way it is. But the solution to that is not to then say it doesn't matter what you do. The solution is to say, understand the relationship you have now. You have a relationship now with God as your Father. Jesus, as the church, we are betrothed, we are engaged to Jesus, and we're supposed to act like Jesus' fiancé. Right? That's just the nature of the case. That's what you buy into, and that's the good thing that God offers us. You see, otherwise, faith is just feelings and words, and that isn't life together, right? To have feelings and words would be like enjoying the wedding ceremony and really enjoying it, truly enjoying it, and truly saying the words, but then not doing anything the way you should as a husband or wife. That's not life together. And the point of this whole thing of becoming a Christian is shalom. It is to take part in God's abundant life. So, I'm not going to go on very long tonight because we've all had a big, long day. So I'm just about done, and I want to emphasize this for you as we conclude. You know what it is to say a few words, believing them to be true, and trusting that you will then get what you want? But that's magic. That's not Christianity. Right? To say a few words and believe them in your heart and hope you'll then get everything you want, that's not Christianity. That's magic. Right? What Christianity is becoming a faithful friend of Jesus, a faithful brother or sister of the Lord, a faithful child of God, and faithfulness means fruitfulness. It means growing up and bearing fruit, being useful, and making shalom. So, in the name of James and in his Lord's name as well, I would say simply this. You say you're a believer? That's great. Act like one.